We have a question here, which I think is a good one.
Yeah.
Some young men in the room, Bob. What advice would you give to a young person to help them discern God's will for them in their vocation? Because obviously your faith has played an important role in your vocation.
Well, all right. I'm not the right person to give you that advice. Because I think it just happens.
Interesting.
And you go through life, and I've always think of myself as an existentialist. You know what that is, existentialist? It's you live in the instant, in the moment. So you don't do a lot of planning. I didn't do any planning. I didn't plan to become an engineer. I didn't plan to become a radar meteorologist. I didn't plan to become a university professor, which I wasn't. And I didn't know that I'd marry a Protestant. I figured I would get married someday. I didn't plan to become a priest. In fact, they would talk to us in grade school about becoming a priest. I didn't think it was for me. I don't know why. But I think the way all these things happen, you are sometimes guided by greater power, by God, by the Holy Spirit, by Jesus. But you don't know. I learned more and more about religion throughout my education. I had a really good education and a really good Catholic education. This is Betsy's sister, Martha, before Betsy had become a Catholic, wanted me to become Episcopalian. And she said, I want you to talk to the head of I don't know if it's a theology department, but the head of Episcopal stuff at Northwestern University. So he was a very educated man and a priest, an Episcopal priest. So I went in and talked to him for over an hour. And we had a long talk. And after we came out, Martha said to him, she said, well, what do you think, to the priest? And he said, Martha, I think Betsy should become a Catholic. I had convinced him that I would never be anything but a Catholic, which is, that's the way it's turned out, and for many reasons. So for whatever reason, I was firmly involved in Catholicism, even though as a college student, you don't take too much. You live through that. You don't think you'll ever die. I believed in Jesus. I believed in the Eucharist. And I learned a lot about Catholicism and theology at Notre Dame. But Betsy's the real one who really taught me about theology. She knew about it, wrote a book about it. But her belief was that the most important people in the church were the mystics. People like St. Francis of Assisi, St. Clare, Teresa of Avila, John of the Cross, Catherine of Siena. Anytime we went to Europe, we had to go to these shrines. We went to every shrine she could think of. On our honeymoon, we went to more museums than you can imagine. She loved art. After about the 10th, 12th, I got so tired of seeing St. Sebastian, but she taught me a lot about art on the liberal arts side of life. In any event, getting back to the answer, things just happen. I would pray to God once in a while. When I had applied for the in-car director's job, Rick Anthony's got it the first time I did it. And then within a year, he moved on to the UCAR president's job, and I applied for it again. And this time, there were signals that I was going to get. But I prayed to God. I remember once riding my bike. I used to ride my bike to work. Not up on a hill. I never had an office up there until after I became the director. But I prayed to God. I said, look, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. Don't worry about it. I'm happy. And I got the job. And then I had the job longer than any other NCAR director before or since. So I must have done a decent job. I had my struggles because the scientists didn't like the idea of an engineer running a scientific organization. But they came around with time.
That's right.
Yeah, they came around. So a bunch of them were after me to get rid of me in my first year. And so I just called a meeting and went and talked to them. I said, you don't know anything about me. Told them what kind of work I had done and how theoretical it was, how mathematically inclined it was. The dynamicists loved that.